And welcome back. And again, I appreciate you spending your time because as we go through these changes naturally on our planet here, as well as what we see with politics and economy, we're all going to have to come together for solutions. And it's not going to be just one single solution that fits all. It's going to be a combination of everybody coming together with different solutions as one way for us to integrate all ideas as the solution. You know, the solution is a misnomer of just one idea, one way to do it. But nobody can really come up with solutions if you don't know the problem. In today's program, I'm not really trying to be Mr. Doom and Gloom. It's more of a show of the power of nature and how do we as a species come together with these solutions. And again, you know, it's going to take a huge amount of thought resources from all of us as ways to move through these changes. I wouldn't say cataclysmic changes, not yet, but that's the distraction. You know, they keep talking about the politics, the things, the CBDCs, the track and trace, the chipping, this, the brain chips in your head and forehead. That may come, but I really believe it's a great distraction for those who are awake. And I just got back from New York City, and one thing I'll say is they don't need to really do much for most of the population to distract. 90%, I'm sorry to say, are sheep that will. They don't even need to be distracted because they're just distracted by the dailies already. So what we're seeing for the aware and the awake are the distraction meant and tailored just for us. The central bank digital currencies are a big one. They're going to have you focused on CBDC when the bull lies and the space debris comes rolling in. So let's start to set up summertime. So from now to the end of the year, it's pretty clear where it's going to go with this readjustment in the movement from La Nina into El Nino and this whole hype of global warming coming back, as well as the volcanic cycle is here again, along with increased earthquakes and seismicity. So, you know, if you haven't been paying attention, this first slide kind of really sums it up. Diverse earthquakes and volcanoes in almost every continent and country across the planet. Democratic People's Republic of Congo, again, going off. That's one of the largest volcanoes in Africa. Apparently, the actual red glow from the crater and lava spilling out over the side is visible some 65 miles away. That's a long way to see a little bit of red on a volcano. And then we had, you know, down all the South American chain, we're looking at eruptions and across Asia. And where you start to look up in Russia, down into, you know, Japan coming off with the earthquakes, and it just seems that whatever's happening electromagnetically is going to affect, and as we saw in 535, 536 AD, about 1500 years ago, something very similar occurred. There was nonstop volcanic eruptions and nonstop earthquakes for 3 straight years, and that reduced the world's population. They just couldn't grow food. It was kind of, they called it the sickness in the air period. And you can do a lot of research on that, the Justinian plague, et cetera, going further back in time. So with the amount of volcanoes and earthquakes, this is definitely going to be built into the fear-based control mechanism, the narrative. Volcanoes are a great thing, but there's been this bevy. And this week I went through just mainstream news articles along with my normal research into peer-reviewed research, which not many mom and dads, normies, et cetera, are going to dive into that peer-reviewed research. They're going to stay right on the MSN, the MSNBC, whatever kind of news feed. So I thought I would delve into that for this week and see what was there that overlaps with sort of the distraction. Here it was. I couldn't believe it. The Earth spin is speeding up. They're trying to say that the atomic clock is now matching that the Earth's core is spinning faster. Something's causing the Earth's core to spin faster. Be very afraid the Earth's spinning up, speeding. Morgan Stanley warns commercial real estate is headed for a crisis worse than 2008. It's no longer a black swan, it's a flock of black swans. There's a banking crisis, commercial real estate, de-dollarization, rate hikes, and persistent inflation. BRICS is the hottest ticket in town with an additional 19 countries looking to join and move away from the dollar. Mention the Adapt 2030 channel. You're going to get some first-class service. Patriot Gold Group offers the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold or silver on qualifying rollovers. 546-7020. Call to get your free investor guide today. And now on with the video. And I thought that's really weird. Why would they, tell the entire normal public that there's a rotation difference in our spin right now? We're going to watch this build-in of natural phenomenon into the news feeds. Watch it. It's here already. I was going to say it would be coming, but it's already here. I talked a few months ago about that. It's actually going to need to subtract 1 second now. And, talking about electromagnetic changes across the solar system, this is a picture of Uranus. Now, this was from the Voyager spacecraft. We go back all the way to 1986. This is really the only image they have of the planet. And I thought that's so interesting. You're telling us all the mechanisms and the science is settled for everything that could possibly happen on our planet, yet you only have a picture or so of all of the planets in our solar system. So it's still in its infancy, this thing that we call solar or astrophysics, solar dynamics studies, even Caltech, JPL. You're thinking, wow, they're so advanced. And again, right off MSN, digital trends, astronomers spot cyclones on the poles of Uranus for the first time ever. So for me, I'm going, that means electromagnetic activity is sweeping across our entire solar system, not just here on Earth. Now, the observations are a little bit deeper into the atmosphere, but again, they're not using what we would consider optics to look at these phenomenon. They're using radio telescopes, a little bit different. But the atmosphere is definitely changing the rotation on Uranus as well. Neptune's atmosphere reversed, remember that, a year and a half ago. And Jupiter's aurora glowed 10x brighter than before. So we start to see these changes in the outer solar system, and they're talking about potassium and different types of elements that are changing heat signature in the atmosphere. So what would do that? The sun, absolutely. So this is a radio telescope here, and this is in the United States in New Mexico. This is what they're using to observe the planets. They're not optical like you think it is. So, just even that in itself, the portrayal of NASA with all these graphic images, you'd think that was optics, but it's not. And here's another one that making the rounds on the mainstream news right now, MSN again, Jupiter. Now they're trying to explain to normies, or just the average unaware person, why the stripes on Jupiter have changed and what's the mechanism. And I really dropped my jaw to the drawer when I pulled this sentence out at the very bottom so you could see it enlarged there. Has to do with shift in Jupiter's magnetic field. But that's intertwined and interplaying with the sun's magnetic field. So if something is able to change Jupiter's magnetic field at that gigantic, not only distance, but Jupiter so many much larger times than Earth. So if the effects are between Jupiter and the sun being felt, and we are so much closer, what do you think is happening to our own terrestrial systems here in terms of jet streams and cloud cells? Now, it's interesting that all this is coming out in just the last, say, 10 days in mainstream news. So I really see this narrative pushing for explaining what the unexplainable will be with magnetic field shifts here on the planet. Now, as we come into 2024, I've showed this chart before in a couple of episodes that I've done. Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune are going to form a square in the outer solar system perceived from Earth. The last time it had done this was 79 AD. That's nearly 2,000 years prior. And you can't tell me that now suddenly a magnetic anomaly is expected to occur with the interplay of the magnetic fields of the gas giants and the sun and the Earth sandwiched between those two. And suddenly they're throwing out in the news in the last week that Uranus, suddenly there's storms on the poles, and look, the magnetic field's changing and Jupiter's bands are shifting. 2 of those 4 planets accounted for in magnetic anomalies and shifts. They are absolutely, and I say the mainstream media is getting ready to announce this, something close to it. They're going to have to explain away the changes. There's too much natural phenomenon going on, even for the average person. Go, whoa, this is way outside the bounds of what CO2 could possibly do. Now, jumping in the Cassandra X-ray telescope and the James Webb telescope. These are some of the new images that are featured in a few of these stories. So it's almost as if they want you to look deeper into space and actually see the vastness of it. And these images are just stunning when they overlay the X-ray technologies with the new optics out of the James Webb telescope. I mean, these are mind-blowing images. What we saw before was very hazy, grainy, but look how in-depth they're actually getting on this. Wanted to bring this one out, the Eagle Nebula. I mean, you're looking at creation itself, the finger of God pushing through our physical universe from the energetic. I mean, this base layer that holds our physical universe together of consciousness is constructed right here. And this is running on Birkeland currents on the formation as well. So this is what powers our star, these Birkeland currents, and they run through everywhere stars are being formed. And if there's pearls of stars across what is considered pearl strings, those are all following the same current flow. And this phantom galaxy is kind of a mind blower as well, where you can really see the spiral arm of it. You know, because to try to visualize our spiral arm of the galaxy, it's kind of, we're here and we're looking at a flat plane, you know, you can't really get above or below it to look at it, but this is truly what our own galaxy is very, very close to. And you can see the wispiness and how many hundreds of billions of stars are there. And we're supposed to believe that we're just this little tiny Earth that's disconnected from everything else. The interplay of a galaxy on its own energetic signature and frequency and resonance is something to behold, let alone interplaying of stars or just regions in the spiral arm that are interplaying energetically on something coming current flow through one galaxy to another, high voltage cables through our universe. And then again, I am so mind blown. Popular Mechanics puts this story out this week as well. Oh, scientists are kind of getting anxious about a pothole in space. Really? Yeah. You can see the trend. You see the trajectory where this is going to get people who are unaware that even there's stars, basically. If you live in the city, you're not going to see the star. The last time I saw people looking up at stars in a city is just like, not really, unless you're in a park somewhere. But they're talking and they're really letting go that there's cycles inbound, because if you read through the article, it's quite a lengthy article, so I just pulled out a couple nuggets there. It's happened many times in the past. So they're verifying that cycles are built into magnetic activity on our planet, which for me was like, wow. They say even back some 11 million years ago all the way to present that it's been flip, 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 flip. It's a cycle. So they're starting to let on to this cyclicity of things that are moving our planet and, you know, responsible for a lot more than you driving your car or airplanes. And they're also talking about a new region of African large shear velocity province, which is above the asthenosphere in our crust. And it has something to do with the molten layers in there aren't moving as quickly. So when they get blocked up and locked in sort of that place and slow down, above that, there's a magnetic anomaly, South Atlantic anomaly. Something below the crust is causing it, but we don't want to talk about that because it's natural. But I think what they're really trying to get at, and you know, I've talked about the ozone depletion event, the runaway ozone depletion event here for some time since the Hunkatonga eruption. I knew that was going to be a big one. All that water vapor went up and we had 10% more moisture ejected in the atmosphere in a single event. And I've been following that pretty closely with the ice crystals up in the mesosphere about 30 to 50 miles above us, and the breakdown of ozone occurring in there, knowing that this event was inbound immediately, June, July, August, September, October. So we are getting very close to getting into June. But normally, the onset of in the column where the ozone breaks down and you actually get zero or very little ozone, where that'll just scorch you like a microwave oven, that doesn't occur usually until September, somewhere around there, late September. And then when it gets into October, it kind of reaches that peak and then it starts to taper off and the ozone refills in the column. Well, these are the readings from today on the left. Well, it's actually a couple of days ago. They're always a few days back, lagging on the time frames. May 23rd, 2023, the lower that blue is and purples are less ozone in the column, meaning the more blue it goes, the more purple it goes, the more black it goes. That means there's less and less ozone. The higher it goes, you get the reds and the yellows. But I'd like you to compare it. Right over here, May 23rd, 2021. This was before the Hunga Tonga eruption. Do you see a difference? The onset is rapid and ferocious this year. And it shall be it'll follow the same pattern for a couple more years. So once we get this full year here under wraps and grasp the early onset and the late outflow of it, it'll probably won't dissipate this year until somewhere way late November, because the temperatures are incredible cold down there right now. The effects on the plant life and the sea life and the insect life and the humans, us, is going to be astounding. And know that the elite and the news are going to run with this story in conjunction with everything else happening as a scare factor to try to push more control over the planet. Now, I had a couple conversations, and it came out at the end was, what if they take it to the extremes on this news feed stuff with this, saying all air travel needs to stop. There's a runaway event. We need to stop it all immediately. Look at what the damage we've caused. The ozone hole's back again. We need to stop all commerce on the planet. We really mean it this time. It is seriously a climate emergency this time. All commerce needs to stop. We're going to die. That kind of level is what they're anticipating to go to when this ozone hole is 10 times larger than it normally is and way far north toward the equator. But really that column, look how far up that extends already up. If that was over Argentina and Chile at the bottom there already, it's going to swing around the planet. So obviously Argentina and Australia, they're all going to get swept by this very low ozone area. Wait until, let's say, September or August. This is going to be black on the bottom of the planet where there will be no ozone. It's going to be interesting. This is, again, in itself, there's really not historical record for a mesospheric ice crystal eruption like we've had. So it's really difficult to even trace back in the past to find a pattern to match it as something that might be a similar. I just never found one. Never. After that eruption, I went through, you don't know how many hours of research, really, like going through everything I could possibly read about it, using ChatGPT to figure it out, jumping into all the peer-reviewed research, looking at all the volcanism, past volcanism, because I already had a bunch of that stuff anyway. But I just couldn't find any similarities. This Hunga Tonga eruption right here. It was January of 2022. Now, this is an all-encompassing thing. They were saving this on the back plate for a fear-based thing. So with the ice crystals up there and with the extra water vapor, you would expect that there be anomalies at the Antarctica first, in the Antarctic Peninsula Circle area, and then it would come further north up toward the equator. Now, this is today's. I just pulled this before the program, or no, yeah. This is a forecast for May 31st. And originally I thought, that's impossible. I think that's an error. Because when I looked at this map, I was like, that's got to be an error. It can't be that cold down there. It's not even, June 1st is when they actually start autumn in the southern hemisphere. And I thought this was a mistake. And I was like, maybe I'm going to write them and tell them that their model's off, that it can't be this cold this early. That's a mistake. This is 30 degrees Celsius below the normal temperatures. Already down there. That pink and light pinks, that's off the chart. That's how cold it is already. And they're not even in winter yet. So can you imagine when the really cold winter temperatures come, they're going to be breaking every record ever set in Antarctica for cold temperatures this year. Now, how does that dovetail into a catastrophic ozone depletion event? So I thought, I really thought the model was wrong here, because I'm looking at these kind of temps. That's impossible. Really, it is impossible. That's like saying that there's an Arctic front and the temperature dropped 80 degrees Fahrenheit and everything froze in the middle of July in the United States in the grain belt. That's kind of the same equivalent when I was looking at this chart. And then I moved forward the models and I thought, okay, maybe it was a broken day or two, and if we move forward a little bit, it'll correct itself. That wasn't. This is really the temperatures down there, because I rechecked it on Windy and a couple others as well. So you're looking at that bottom there. That's all of the Antarctic continent that they do have for visible here on the temperatures. They're already running away into extreme cold. So something has definitely broken here. And I was looking at the sea surface temperature models here too, because I wanted to talk about how El Nino and La Nina are going to be used also. Now, that's kind of base layer number one, actually two. You get all of the celestial phenomenon as the base layer. Then we put on top all the running ozone depletion event on top of that. So now we got two base layers. Now, the third layer of distraction that's coming in the summer will be this movement from La Nina into El Nino, and the El Nino is going to cause a heat spike. Obviously, if the oceans are warmer, they're going to warm the atmosphere. But the thing is, that's a cycle as well. So they're going to start to say, catastrophic runaway global warming again. Well, yeah, we're coming into an El Nino once more. But the reason I have this chart here is I was trying to back up what I saw on that previous chart of absurdly cold temperatures. I was like, if it's that cold, water's going to reflect that. And when I say that, if there's that much cloud cover and it's really that cold, the surface temperatures of the water are going to be cooler also. So I pulled the chart here. This is off NOAA. Anybody can find it's 50 kilometer global. And look how blue it is down there. Cold. So water is actually verifying that extreme cold event over Antarctica. The water temperatures are starting to push that, as well as like 2.5 to 3 degrees Celsius below normal water temperatures on the sea surface now. But mainly what I was focused on when I really pulled this chart first, also to, two birds, one stone, I wanted to verify the cold over Antarctica, but I also look at that off of South America, that dark blue little wavy line there, that is the end of La Nina dissipating. So as it comes into the warming, oh my, the global warming headlines for this summer are going to make you sick to your stomach. It's going to be all encompassing, never ending. And there's two more layers of distraction to go for the summer, and then you can see how it'll build into one giant control device to get governments to act because they haven't, because there's been too much pushback from the knowledgeable public. But how's that really going to wind out in our world is the question. They're really talking about stopping all commerce on the planet, not because the planet's going to run away because of any human caused. It's because all these natural cycles are culminating and dovetailing and overlayering and interlooping on themselves that gives the perfect distraction and narrative for complete and total planetary lockdown. Talk about that when we come back from the break. See you then.